Wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up! Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake! This is Mr. Senior Love Daddy, your voice of choice. The world's only 12-hour strong man on the air. Here on We Love Radio 108 FM. The last on your dial, but first in your hearts. And that's the truth. Root.
Three Films and a Podcast has no claim of ownership on any film footage used in this episode. All film footage is owned in its entirety by the copyright holders and is used solely with the intent of film criticism, commentary, and education under fair use law. And just like every car in Too Fast, Too Furious, this podcast contains spoilers. Enjoy. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Three Films and a Podcast, the show where three friends challenge each other to broaden their cinematic horizons through a series of themed rounds. My name is Ben Lawhorn and I'm coming to you from Salt Lake City, Utah. And as always, I am joined by Tyler Beck up in Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everybody.
And a little closer to home.
We're not redoing it, but I felt so fucking stupid.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Matt's just so much better at saying hi than I am.
Well, the pressure's on. So speaking of a little closer to home, Matt Weiler down in Pleasant Grove.
Yeah, I say that less.
What?
Yes, exactly. As you can tell, we have been doing this for a year. So welcome to the show. We'd like to welcome you. Thank you for hanging out with us. Like we mentioned earlier, this is a podcast that started among the three of us. It was just a very long group text that has kind of evolved into this podcast that you're listening to right now. So thank you for joining us. We like to have everyone that's listening be a part of the movie club. So we appreciate you taking this adventure along with us. If you want to follow along, you can find all of our social media links, everything you need at threefilmspod.com. We have a merch store, we have Patreon, we have all that stuff. But if you want to listen to the pod, watch the pod, everything you need is right there. So go check it out.
I would recommend watching this episode specifically on YouTube so you can get the full experience of Matt's mug bit he pulled just a minute ago.
I'll take that a step further and say you should be watching every episode on YouTube.
That's true.
Watch every episode on YouTube.
I need everyone to see the full roller coaster of emotions that I watched Matt go through. That he was going for it. He committed to the bit. It didn't get acknowledged, and I just slowly watched his spirits crush as he put his mug down and just gave up on the bit. It was pretty awesome. And that's the kind of stuff you'll find on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you're sitting in the writing room, you don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah.
You gotta try it out there.
You throw it out there.
Yeah. Not everything's going to stick, but we're still against the wall.
I want you to know that
stays.
I appreciated it.
Yeah. It's appreciated here. As I mentioned, we have been doing this for one whole year. It was actually a year ago today. A little peek behind the curtains. It is September 7th, I believe. And literally a year ago today, we put out our first promo piece telling people the pod was coming. So this is kind of exciting. So we just kind of wanted to recap the year. It's been a great year for us. I mean, in terms of podcasting, not like in life, like there's just a pandemic and everything going on. But in terms of the podcast, it's been a lot of fun. We've had a really good time. We just thought it'd be fun to kind of recap the year. We want to give a shout out to everyone that's come on the pod. We decided to kind of create our own award show of sorts. The name is TBD, but just kind of the first annual Three Films Pod Awards. If you have any ideas, let us know. And then next year we will call them that.
Yeah. I think it's like a beautiful bit of poetry that like when we started this, we we had no idea what we were doing. We didn't have outlines for the episodes. We were truly just winging it. Like we had good ideas and like a direction and a good rapport and like a complementary set of skill sets. But like, we didn't really know what we were doing. And here we are a year later and we figured all of that out, but we didn't figure it out for this specific episode. And I just think that's beautiful. I think it's representative of the podcast.
Full circle.
And it's full circle, man.
We're right back where we started.
Yeah, we're right back where we started. But I mean, in all reality, like, I don't know, man, this has just been so much fun. So I'm kind of excited to come on here and have like a another loose, rambling, weird episode. You know,
Yeah.
get back to our roots just a little bit.
Yeah, these are always fun. It's nice coming in with just like a rough outline, and we'll just kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, like we talked about earlier, we had a lot of awesome guests come on this year. I think it's really what made our pod what it is. It was a good call, I think, to just start bringing them on. Obviously, the three of us are just super funny and charming, but
just the best.
it's a lot of fun when we bring in a little, you know, diversity. Just like it's a lot. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of just give a shout out to everyone that's come on.
Absolutely.
This list that I put together started alphabetically and then it became chronological. So this is just going to be kind of a weird list. But I feel like we have to start with the Podfather himself that we've talked about a few times already, Mr. Adam Palcher.
My inspiration.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, you know, Tyler, you told me about, you know, back when it was a damn movie podcast, and I listened to that. And then he was one of the first calls I made when we talked about doing the podcast, and he was super helpful to kind of, you know, get us to understand the format and a guideline and all that kind of stuff. He was great. So we definitely could not have done this without his help. And he was a lot of fun to have on. I think his memorable movie moment was one of my favorites, where they just watched Memento, and the lady's like, "Why do you have a British accent? It's a Christopher Nolan," you know, and his brother just has an American accent. I was like, "That's what you left with? Like, you just watched this weird mind fuck of a movie, and you're like, why do you have a British accent?" Like,
maybe it was just like too far beyond her. She's like, let's just get to the basics here. Like, I couldn't get past that, and it set me up wrong. You know,
you gotta, well, I gotta like start at square one. The accent, then not get into the movie.
It's funny to ask that question to someone like him, because I'm sure he's seen the most movies out of anyone I know. Yeah. And he goes to Sundance every year and sees, you know, 30 movies a year at Sundance, plus whatever else in the theater. So it's just like, that must have been such a memorable experience for it to stand out so much.
100%. I love that story a lot.
Yeah. That's great.
I mean, we introduce a Weiler every single episode, but only twice have we had our favorite Weiler on the show with us. That would be Angie, who joined us for the rom-com draft, which was a great movie draft. That was a lot of fun. And then for the unsung gem Matt just talked about, Sing Street, where she was the driving force behind that, right, man?
Yeah, that is correct. We always have bonded over movies. She's my movie buddy.
Hands
she's
on or off.
Hands on or off. Sick.
She's there. Steve Doty,
sick or in good health.
You're married. She's in it for the long
haul. She's watched a lot of movies that she's wanted to see and a lot of movies that she doesn't want to see, but we're in it together.
Which it was the. Wait, didn't she join us for the Babes in Toyland episode as well?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I totally left that off. Dang it. Yep.
And then she
came in hot with the Keanu takes, right?
Okay, it was so that was the same episode where she jumped in and came in hot like that. And then she stayed throughout the whole episode, right?
I think there was another one where she came in at the beginning and just like had to clarify the Keanu takes after Matt had talked about them.
That's right. Yeah.
But then she left. So she's made 3.5 appearances.
I think she made the best entrance so far.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, I don't know. My other favorite one was when we did Empire and Matt started in Pitch Black.
From Salt Lake City, Utah, the irreplaceable and immensely talented Benjamin Lawhorn and Matthew Weiler.
I'll never join you.
True.
You got that lightsaber. True. That was something else. That inspired me to get a lightsaber of my own. So that's a hard one to top, but non-host entrances.
Disney, like and subscribe. Matt's already selling stuff for you.
Yes, please.
You're welcome. Give us screeners.
Please like and subscribe. I know you're still alive somewhere.
Walt, if you're up there, please smash that like button.
Let's do it. Speaking of partners, we have the Watch Party MVP, my girlfriend Ashley, who has joined us for a few episodes. Speaking of partner picks, she came on for Vox Lux. the J-Law classic that we love with Natalie Portman, was the other part of the rom-com draft, which again I had a lot of fun with. Strangers on a Train, Hitchcock round was great. That was a great round to do. And then our Reservoir Dogs recast. So that was, I don't know. I loved having her on. It was a lot of fun. I loved the passion behind the recast. I still just
a lot of Gina Davis.
See Gina Davis and Leslie Jones. Like that's just all I think about now is them in Reservoir Dogs, which I would love so much.
Oh yeah.
I think for anyone out there who hasn't been to a watch party, and I think we'll start those up again over the winter. It's a little bit easier to do. You got to come see why she's MVP. I'm not going to say too much more. You got to come and see for yourself. It's worth the price of admission.
Yes, exactly.
We will be charging from now on. Just kidding.
Yes,
we won't.
There'll be an MVP stream. Yeah. So yeah, and outside of people that we live with, Anna Baratori came on from Professional Friends podcast. Right. She came on to talk about A Fish Called Wanda, which was a great episode. That was a fun movie to watch. That was kind of a surprise, I think, for me, how much I enjoyed that.
She was a fun guest too. She's funny.
Yeah, she was awesome. She was hilarious. So go follow the Professional Friends pod. Brian Rowe from Film at 50 came on for my pick for Mars Attacks. We did the Mars movies. Man, I mean, talk about a guy who runs like a very professional podcast. That dude knows what he's doing. He's got a great like concept behind it of doing movies that are 50 years old, or just any on anniversaries. And he brought his A game. He was a great guest.
I love the story of his dad taking him to True Lies.
Yes,
great coming of age story.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm glad we got to clarify why he didn't love Multiplicity at the time. Brian, if you're listening, I hope you've revisited it. I'm happy to come back on and talk about it.
Yeah.
Friends of the pod, Candace and Arzu from Geeky Waffle and Space Waffles, they came on a few times. And Bucky,
put us in our place real quick.
Bucky. Yeah.
Don't forget Bucky.
Let's see, they came on for Solo, the little pod that we did, talking about Solo, a Star Wars story, where Arzu really just like informed and educated us about why the prequels are great. And she's convinced me 100%. Like, go take it to my grave. She helped me
realize I need to watch them again for the first time since I was 12 or whatever.
Yeah, she had like a new lens on it, and I really liked it.
I mean, she made you look like a 12-year-old when she was.
I felt it. I felt every bit of 12 years old. A girl made me feel bad about myself again.
And then they joined us for the Disney.
Hold on, that joke's not getting enough credit. You can't just move on past that.
Hey, come on.
I don't want to toot my own horn here, but
that was
the perfect amount of self-deprecating.
It was good. I mean, it was spot on.
Okay, thank you. I needed that acknowledgement.
It was an international burn too, coming from Canada. So it was that was a long distance. She got you.
She got me.
Let's see. Yeah. So they also came on for the Disney animated movie draft, which selfishly was a lot of fun for me. I had a great time with that one. Yeah. Let's see. Christian Renteria from Movie Pit Podcast.
Okay.
He came on to talk about the Taylor Kitsch movie, not the what did I call him?
Taylor Riggins.
Taylor Riggins. Yeah, I call him Taylor Riggins.
It's Taylor Riggins.
It's all the same. The Tim Riggins classic, John Carter. That dude, again, talk about a professional podcast. Yeah. He knows what he's doing. I definitely recommend go follow Movie Pit Podcast.
Yeah, he's a great guest.
I've loved all of our guests. I feel like I'm going to say it about everybody, but I honestly just like really enjoyed these guys who come on and just like, I don't know, enjoy talking about movies. It just makes it a lot of fun, and brings like a new, I don't know, viewpoint for us, which is really cool.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like such a cool benefit for us, right? Like it's like, it obviously creates good content for, the people that are listening and liking and subscribing, follow us on Spotify, YouTube, all those places. Mm-hmm. But it's also like we get to meet like all these fun, cool people. Like next up, you were going to mention Ethan and Austin from Final Take Podcast.
Yeah.
And then Ethan also runs 15 Minutes of Marvel.
Yeah.
Who, like I've now met Ethan outside of the podcast. We went and saw Black Widow together. And we had plans to see Shang-Chi together, but I blew that one, and I ended up going by myself because I'm weird and I like going to movies by myself. But
that's fun.
But yeah, like it's just like it's such a cool thing that we get to do. And I didn't see this happening when we started the podcast. I was super excited to just be the three of us. And if we met some people, great. But the podcast community in and of itself has just been incredible, like very supportive. And shout out Ethan and Austin. They were on, they were both on for the MCU movie draft. And then Ethan came back on for Ready Player One. And it's just, it's cool, man. It's cool what we get to do with this whole thing.
Shout out Age of Ultron. I got to share my love for that. Speaking of Ethan, there may be a little baby here between 15 minutes of Marvel and 3 films. He and I are going to be starting one called 24 Minutes of A24. We're going to be going through the A24 movies. So
nice.
Stay tuned for that. That should be fun.
That's cool.
Our own the Howie Ratner here. We start out with Uncut Gems, of course.
That's how you win.
Yeah. Probably my closest connection here. My cousin Graydon came on for Labyrinth, the guy behind the music that you hear at the beginning and end of every episode. That was a lot of fun.
It's a fun episode.
Yeah, and he's someone that has like a connection to all 3 of us. You know, like obviously he's my cousin. Matt, you guys were friends growing up.
For 3 years of my life, we hung out probably every day. So
yeah,
it was great to have him on. Halo parties and have him on for a movie that we bonded over, back in the day. So
yeah, he was a ton of fun. Speaking of international guests, Austin and Jen from I Hate Your Taste in Movies came on for our summer movies movie draft. And I will never not be able to think about Bone Cop, Bad Cop now.
I know.
Think about summer movies. I'm sad to admit I still have not watched it.
I know.
Austin, I will fix that, I promise. But like that movie is just ingrained in my head now forever. Like,
I'm just glad they came on to even give us that recommendation because it couldn't have come from anywhere else. And
no,
and I love it that it came from the I Hate Your Taste in Movies podcast, where they just attack each other's taste in movies.
They have a super fun podcast. I highly recommend checking it out.
Yes.
I didn't know what I was getting into the first time I listened to it, and it was the Point Break episode. And I also have a love for it, much like Tyler, but they were just like ripping it apart. And I was like, I mean, nothing you're saying is wrong, but like, that's not, what are you doing? Like, it's a fun movie. Like, I like this, but
come on, Utah, honestly, get me too. I'm an FBI agent, all that fun stuff.
It's a great podcast. We highly recommend it. Like, they're a lot of fun. I mean, our own personal Danny Ocean came on a couple times. Mentioned him already. Mr. Jake Draper. We did the Ocean's 11 recast because we thought it'd be smart to start out with a 15-person recast.
It was season 1, living and learning.
Yeah, it was right. Let's go balls to the wall here at the beginning.
And you know what? People still talk about the Ocean's redraft.
Yeah, it was a fun one.
It's true. I mean, these recasts are a lot of fun. I have a great time with them. And then he came out for North by Northwest as well, which, he's a huge James Bond fan. And, we kind of talked about the roots of some of the James Bond stuff in North by Northwest.
Yeah.
So that was another really great episode. Buddy Josh, who was on here just, I guess when you're listening to this a couple episodes ago. The crime movie draft, our very first movie draft. He was the first member of the Clubhouse, actually. So that's very cool. He's been on for, came on for Vertigo, came on for Paths of Glory, and then most recently for the purple one himself, Purple Rain with Prince. That was
he's in the 4-timers.
We're definitely talking about that movie later.
Yes,
we're definitely bringing up Purple Rain later on.
Yeah,
he is in the 4-timers. I think it's just him and Ashley right now. But if Angie makes another half appearance, she'll be there. Just another pop in real quick to defend Keanu. Let's see. We're working our way through this. This is honestly like it's a lot of fun. I'm liking kind of reliving some of these episodes that we had with him. I forgot they were on like for these like early like that first movie draft. I was like, man, that was a really good time. And speaking of our first patron, longtime friend of the pod, Tyler and I have known him for a very long time, Mr. Justin Wong. He
Shout
came
out
on
Justin
for The Shining, and really just made us all look bad. Like even his camera was literally better than all of ours. Like he looked so good. Like he was a great guest. I can't have any of these people back on.
He was with us for Jurassic Park.
Yes.
The in-person watch party.
That was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed that Shining episode, kind of digging into the, the Shelley Duvall stuff and just like all the story behind it, the Stephen King. That was a fun episode. That's high up there for us on our number of listens. That one's a pretty popular episode.
Yeah. Talk to Justin.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin. Tom Lehman from the Talking Pictures Trivia podcast, where all three of us have been on their podcast now, right? Or Matt, you're about to.
Pending.
I know, yeah, pending. Had to reschedule, but all of us have been or will be on there. Tom came on to talk about the Apu trilogy. I went on their podcast to talk about The World of Apu, which is the third movie in that trilogy. And then he also joined us for Close Encounters.
And then I joined them for their episode of Close Encounters.
That's right. And you learned who Richard Dreyfuss was, right?
I sure did. He's not Bob Balaban.
It's not Bob Balaban. That was my favorite part of that episode. I really enjoyed that.
I'm glad. That's what I'm here for.
Matt's BFF, his unsung BFF, Travis Kerr from Let the Movie Speak. The two little mixed nuts just found each other and it could not be better.
Travis, if you're listening to this episode, I just have that feeling of someone else organically finding mixed nuts. There was no better feeling. Nothing has replicated that. I mean,
it was beautiful for me to witness. I can't even imagine if it was actually me.
It's one of those great memories that one has in their lifetime. Yeah. And I don't know if you've thought about it again. I certainly have. This might be one way. I don't know if it's reciprocated, but it's a memory that I will cherish forever.
I mean, honestly, when I was editing it, I went back and I rewatched that when he says mixed nuts, because the three of us had a different level reaction of like, oh my God, like there's no way he said that. Like I was freaking out. I think Matt had like almost like a calm panic or something like that, because like there wasn't like a big expression, but like you could just tell in him like, oh my God, this guy just said mixed nuts, yes, exactly. It's like a calm. It's like, I'm not alone. But my favorite part was just watching Travis's face, because I don't think he understood why we were all freaking out about mixed nuts.
What is the deal?
And his response like, no, really, it's this movie. He's like, no, we know it's this movie. It's just like, this is amazing. I never would have anticipated anybody else saying
his
mixed
memory
nuts.
of it. His memory of it is probably like a negative thing. Like I said mixed nuts, these guys get all weird. Like,
yeah, they all freaked out at me. It's like, no, this was amazing. We watched like a ninth inning grand slam. It's like, oh, this was, I did not expect this. This is great.
Travis, just for some context, Ben for Christmas got me an ornament that just says directed by Nora Ephron because of my love of mixed nuts. So
yeah, it's legit. It runs deep. So I think hands down is one of the greatest unsung gem Clubhouse moments that we've had. So
for sure.
Good luck, all you season 2 people. Try to top that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he came out for Barry Lyndon. We didn't even talk about what movie he came out for. He was on for Barry Lyndon, which was just a weird movie. But
yeah, that's fine.
I might bring that up later on. We've talked about the George Lucas talk show. Patrick Cotner came on, which was like for me just like a huge. I was so excited to have him come on. I've watched that show for a very long time, and just to get him to come on was like a big deal for me. I was like, I don't know. I was probably more nervous than I needed to be, but I was just like so stoked. I was like, dude, I love what this guy does and everything he's involved with. And he lived up to it, like if we ever do that Mars Needs Moms, I forget what the other movie is, double feature, he's coming back. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Not only was it a super fun episode, but yeah, he's like, he's like in showbiz, what I mean? Like that was a big guest for us. It was sort of a big moment, and it, like we've talked about this privately, and we'll peek behind the curtain here for the listeners, but to see him sharing our stuff and to be working on this show for the last year, and putting out what we've put out, and like we really are making an effort. I'm speaking to the listener here, like we really are trying to do something that we think is worth your time. And so to see him sharing stuff that we made on the same Instagram and Twitter feeds as other things that he's participated in that included people like Patton Oswalt or Bob Odenkirk, like he put out we were on the same timeline as people like that, and I know we're not connected to them in any ways, but it just was like it was pretty gratifying, you know what I mean? So shout out Patrick for, you know, using his platform to shout us out like that. And
yeah, we appreciate it.
And share what we're doing. Yeah, it was a really cool moment for me too. Like, I don't have a connection with his show necessarily the same way you do, but I was just like, man, he just had a clip of him with, you know, Bob Odenkirk, and then the next clip was him with us. And I was like, that's fucking wild. I never would have thought I'd be able to say something like that. And I know, you know, it's all tangential and it's whatever, but I don't know, it was big for us. So you know,
he's such a good guest too.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a lot of fun to have on. Got to get those Quado t-shirts made. You know,
Mr. Quado.
Mr. Quado.
And you know, up there for me as well, kind of a 1A 1B, is we had Leah and Beth Ann on from the She Will Rock You podcast. They came on to talk about the Gary Busey classic Buddy Holly story. Man, I mean, I think they were the perfect guests for this movie.
Yeah,
like, this movie was a trip, but it
was cool because they were able to, like, if we had questions, like, I'm not sure if it was really like this. It's as far as like Buddy Holly's life, they were able to chip in and tell us, like, yes or no. Like, it was cool to have some experts on, you know?
Exactly. And as far as, like, you know, the podcast community, like all these indie podcasts, they're such a huge part of that. And it's just great to, like, have a connection with them. They are wonderful podcast hosts, highly recommended. They kind of, every episode they break down a band, their history. One of the most recent ones I listened to was the Mamas and the Papas, which was a lot of fun. But they did Buddy Holly, which is where I, you know, thought like, oh, maybe they'll come on for this. They've done a lot of great bands, but they also interview, you know, primarily women in the industry and kind of what they're doing. And they do a lot of great stuff. They did an interview with this woman who, like, basically kind of just goes around to cat cafes, but it's one of the most fun interviews I've ever listened to. Like, it was awesome. It was a really good episode. So really highly recommend She Will Rock You. That has made its way onto my rotation on a regular basis. So shout out to them. And then, our most recent guests on our most recent episode, Bill and Jason, came on from the All 80s podcast, which, as you can guess, is movies all from the 80s. And they joined us for Matt's music pick. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Blues
Brothers. Yeah. And they were a lot of fun. I had a great time talking with them. That was a super fun episode. It was fun to, like, go over the Blues Brothers again. Their pod is a lot of fun. I listened to the Dirty Dancing episode, which was a blast. I love that movie. It's like a secret love of mine is that movie. So that was a fun one to listen to. But
I listened to Adventures of Babysitting.
So did I. Did I. Yeah. I sort of wish, like, I mean, I'm glad that none of our guests were bad, but it would be really fucking funny because, I mean, all of our guests were great, and I genuinely love talking to all of them. It's like my favorite thing about doing this podcast now, and I just wish it'd been like. And then we had John from the John Rules podcast. That guy fucking sucks.
Hey, if you're a bad guest, come on our pod. We need some bad guests.
Please come on.
We need a little bit of controversy here.
I think you said it on the Buddy Holly one, but Fuzz, I think you're just like, I want to guess who hates movies to come on here.
Yeah.
Like, I just want someone to come on and just like, oh, this was horrible. I hate movies. I'm like, oh, great. Yes, this is the podcast for you. But yeah, that's our Clubhouse. That's a solid group. That was a ton of fun. It's a great group
of people.
Wow, we got some great people lined up for season 2. So this Clubhouse will just continue to grow. But if you want to know more about any of these people, we have a playlist on our YouTube channel that is just everybody's Clubhouse questions. So it's a lot of fun to kind of get to know these people and their movie taste and what they like and all that kind of stuff. So you can go subscribe on our YouTube channel. You find that 3 films and a podcast. Little plug there. Seamless plug.
Ben's not going to do it, but Matt and I will. Ben puts in a ton of work. He's amazing with the video. He works really hard, and I want him to be rewarded. I need him to be rewarded. So while you're at work or whatever, just pop on some YouTube. You can see these beautiful faces. You can see when I have done my hair and when I haven't. You can see the gray in my beard, that stuff.
There are things that Ben puts into the YouTube episodes that you can't listen to.
You can't get it through audio.
And it's not just like extended movie clips, like visuals. There's some Easter eggs in there, and you'll have to watch to find them.
You don't want to miss out. No one wants to miss out.
I did just throw one in for the Buddy Holly episode that I'm excited for people to see. It's going to be good. Awesome. Well, we put some feelers out, kind of a mailbag guest question kind of thing. We want to do a little Q&A before we get into our awards. So thank you to everybody who has submitted some questions. We will try to burn through these somewhat quickly. We kind of got a lot of questions, which was awesome. That was fantastic. Yeah. Kind of along the lines of a memorable movie moment here. One of the first questions we got is, what's the worst movie you have ever seen?
I've already answered this, I think, on the pod once, but it's the only movie I've ever walked out of. So I don't even know if maybe it got better after I left, but it's Master of Disguise, Dana Carvey. Nice. I think I even snuck into it, and I still
you talked about that. Yeah, you guys left. It's the one where you talked about like that I used to work there and stuff.
Yeah,
you're like, and I still left.
One of our tricks was, and like we're not the first people to think of this, but one person we'd buy one ticket, we'd pool together and buy one ticket, and then someone would let everyone in. And so I think we went and got the money back for that one ticket.
Oh man, it's so
such assholes. I'm terrible, but
I love it.
I was a young teenager, but yeah, Master of Disguise. No thanks.
Nice.
Well, SNL alum cannot always create the best movies.
They can't.
They're not all home runs, and mine is no different. Mine is directed by Dan Aykroyd.
Okay.
The synopsis is a businessman and his friends are captured by a sadistic judge and his equally odd family in the backwoods of a bizarre mansion. This was in 1991. Listen to the cast here. Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, Demi Moore. Those are the main ones. But
solid cast.
Solid cast. 1991. It's called Nothing But Trouble. And I was told before I watched this that this was unwatchable, that it was bad, not to do it. And I'm looking at this cover and I'm seeing these, 4 actors. I'm like, there's no way this is bad. Like, you didn't understand. You didn't get it. And I saw that Dan Aykroyd directed it. I'm like, this person's insane. And then I watched the movie and it is unwatchable. Do not watch this movie. But Digital Underground makes a cameo in it, which means Tupac Shakur is in this movie.
Nice.
Well, that's
I like
fun.
That.
So I actually just looked at this because of the Blues Brothers. I was kind of cruising through his IMDb and I saw the cast and everything. And then I saw the IMDb rating and I was like, there's no way it's that bad. I had the same mental gymnastics you went through. So
it's worse than the IMDb rating.
That's amazing.
Wow. I'm very appreciative. I will not waste my time. I'll watch Bone Cop, Bad Cop.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Mine, I've only turned one movie off really because I just couldn't watch it anymore. I had a bad theater experience, and similar to you, Tyler, it's actually when I worked at the movie theater and I still was just like, God, why am I here? That was a movie called Bats. I sat through it though, because like, it's free, whatever, I'll hang out here. But the movie that I turned off, I could not finish. It's a Jodie Foster movie. I had to watch it for school, and so I just didn't do the assignment. Called The Brave One, and I just I don't know what it was. I
remember you telling me this actually.
The editing is insane. It's just like the back and forth. Like if I remember right, they're just like she's on like an operating table, but they would cut back and forth to when she and her fiance are like having sex. So it's just like the same. Cool. I don't know. It was way too much. The acting was really rough. Like I don't know. It was a hard movie, and it's honestly the only one I can remember in my life like that I turned off because I didn't want to watch it anymore. Like I love movies so much. It's like whatever, even if it's bad, I'll find something in it. But I could not finish this movie at all. It was horrible. I did not like it.
Okay, so that's a full round.
Oh my God, can you imagine that Unsung Gems, whatever that one is?
Or like what's the opposite of an unsung gem? Like,
I don't know. We should be like the muted gems, like the stuff we don't talk about.
The things that deserve
do
to
not
remain
watch. The do not watch list.
Kind of along those lines, is there a movie or genre that any of you tend to avoid, and if so, which ones or why?
Pretty well documented.
Yeah.
I'm not a scary movie guy.
Throw my hat on that as well. Yep.
Yeah. Is that what you were going to say, Matt?
Yep. I'm in that boat too as well.
And like, there's a lot of them that I do like, you know, like the Jordan Peele stuff. There's for whatever reason, like it's funny because I don't like watching it, but I really like the movie Stigmata. Like it like freaks me out to think about watching it, but I think I've watched it a couple of times and I've always liked it, which is weird to say because I don't like necessarily have fun.
Yeah.
But like I like it.
Yeah.
That's not the same with like Us or with Get Out. Like I really did enjoy watching those. And you know, there has been scary movies that I've enjoyed, but I don't know, man. I just like I can't get excited to watch them. I feel weird the whole time. It makes me feel I don't like the feeling afterwards typically. So yeah.
For sure. I think I used to be that way with horror movies. They've grown on me the last few years. Or I really enjoy them. For the longest time it was Westerns, but that was just more about my upbringing because I was in a house that loved Westerns. So I was like, well, if they like it, I probably won't, but there's some great stuff out there. You know, it's amazing what, you know, just trying stuff later on in life. It's like, oh, this is actually not bad.
I will say, like, as far as I respect horror for what it can do, right? Like if you think about film as a medium used to elicit emotional response, right? Like a good comedy makes you gut bust laugh. A good drama can make you cry or make you feel certain things. So I respect it for horror's ability to elicit emotion or like, you know, bring up a response from people. So like, I think it's really cool that it's that it's something that can make me feel the way that it does. I just like, I don't like the feeling. And some people, it's so like doesn't bother them as much or they don't mind that feeling, but I don't know. It just is like, I just can't get into it very much.
I get it. Where do you want or see the podcast going in the future? I think I'm grateful for the trajectory that we're on. Like it's, you know, it's been slow, but it's been a year, you know, we're still figuring it out ourselves. We're still trying to like fine tune the format and everything, but I'm just grateful for everyone that listens, that participates. Like when we throw stuff on Instagram, like I love the dialogue with everybody. We say it every episode and it may sound corny or whatever, but like we genuinely try to view this as a movie club where we're all just kind of in this together. So in a year, you know, and just, you know, in the future, whatever, I just want it to keep kind of growing and just like get a community kind of involved with each other. I think that's my favorite part about pods that I'm really into. It's just like talking to other people who listen to it. So I'd love to build that. At
its core, the pod is about, you know, bringing people together with a shared love in one thing. And that's kind of what it began as with the three of us. It's something that like we enjoyed so much that we wanted to bring more people into it. And so whatever we look like in a year or in 5 years, I just hope that it's a much bigger community and that we've brought more people together through shared love of movies.
Yeah, 100%. And that goes along with what I was going to say is because something that like I know I could do better is just like I guess I'm just excited to do all of this better, right? Whether it's like the outreach on social media or creating topics and talking points and a community that harbors back and forth like that, you know, that elicits comments and questions and community engagement and just like us as podcasters and as content producers. Like I'm just really excited. I think we've gotten better at this as we've gone on, both at creating the content and delivering it. And so it's been fun to sort of watch us like chisel a path. And I'm just really excited to see how much farther we get in that regard a year from now. And I think getting better at this and sort of finding our stride in the way that we can like bring in guests and work in different genres and topics and all this sort of stuff. I just think, you know, I'm just really, really excited to see where the pod goes and the movie club goes. Yeah. It's been cool to see how this evolved from just, you know, just a way to make each other watch movies to now it's like we're making new contacts and acquaintances and friends and experiences. I don't know, man. It's really cool.
It's a lot of fun. We had a great time with Jurassic Park, renting out that theater. I think the dream would just be able to rent out a theater and fill it up with people, you know, and all just watch a movie together in person. I think that'd be awesome.
I think that's the answer I was trying to look for. It's just like getting to the point where like we have a product that's good enough that we could fill an entire theater of people that want to be there together with us within this community. You know what I mean? And I think that goes along with just building the community organically and also like just getting better at doing this. And I think we are. And I don't know. I think it's cool. And I'm proud of you guys.
Same here.
Proud of
I
you.
love it. I love what
Proud
we're
of you,
doing.
Ben. Proud of you, Tyler.
Let's see. Great question. What advice would you give yourselves from a year ago?
Create an outline.
Yeah. Create an outline. Man,
Think about what you're doing.
I was so excited to get the Do the Right Thing episode out. Like in retrospect, like we probably should have had like more of a backlog, but I was just, it's like Christmas presents when you got something great for somebody. It's like, I don't want to wait to give this to them till Christmas. Like, I want to do it now. That's like kind of how I felt. Like, let's get this out there. I want to hear what people think, But yeah, maybe more of an outline. But I think honestly, a lot of it, it's just like, it's the cliche of like, I don't regret anything because I wouldn't be where I was, if I didn't. And that's kind of how I feel. It's like we've just learned so much over the last year. So I don't know, other than like just create an outline or, maybe come up with a more set format. But again, that's just stuff that we've kind of learned over time. So that's probably what I would go back and say.
We're still figuring that out. And I would add to that, even outside of the actual pod, I would say figure out the things that you want to hit on, create a schedule, get a plan, plan everything out, because we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but at least we're consistent in what we are trying to do. And we're trying to do more and do more better. But just starting off with that plan has been, crucial in the way that we've grown.
Yeah, this whole medium and our show and everyone's show, like it really does, when it's done well, it seems to be just some people shooting the shit, right?
Yeah.
But that's really not the case. I mean, I remember the first time I ever was on a podcast, it was on Adam Palcher's podcast back when it was a damn movie podcast. And that's what I thought. I was like, oh yeah, they just kind of like go back and forth. They know kind of what they want to say and whatever. And then Sherlock was sort of the one that hosted and produced their show. And I realized like, oh, like he's pacing this. He has an outline and like they have structure. And even knowing that, like when we went into this, it was like, yeah, who cares? Like we can just go and talk about a thing, talk about a movie. We'll talk about Do the Right Thing. And I'll never forget, like when we first went in to record, I was like, oh, we are way in over our heads. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've obviously, like, I'm proud of what we put out. We've gotten some good feedback on that show in particular. It's one of our most played and downloaded shows, which is really cool. I'm really proud that we did that round and that movie in the time that we did it. But yeah, this isn't as easy as we make it sound.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think
that was a joke, everyone. Please, I have to let that one know it was a joke. I'm not cool or confident enough to let that one slide.
Somewhat along those lines, we got asked what was the biggest compromise each of us had to make for the podcast to work as well as it does. I mean, I don't want to answer for everyone, but I feel like it's just a hobby they have to be super passionate about to the point that it kind of becomes a second job kind of thing, because I mean,
a job that you pay to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of, looking back on it where it came from for me, because like after the pandemic, the airport was like, cool, do you want to retire? I'm like, I guess. But then all of a sudden I had 3 nights open a week and I'd been out there for 15 years. I'm like, well, what do I do now? Like now I've got like 3 nights open. It's like, oh, maybe I could like channel my energy here. And I've loved it. Like it has been so much fun. There's definitely plenty of work involved with it. Yeah. But it's been so much fun to like learn a new skill or whatever and just like have a new outlet. So I'd say the biggest compromise is just like time. But like luckily we're all with partners who are very understanding and support us and encourage us. So that's huge, to be able
shout
to
out the strong supportive women behind 3 films and a podcast.
100%. The 3
my
days.
Partner Alex, she hasn't actually been on the podcast, but it's funny when we talk about like people having a guest on that doesn't like movies. She likes movies, but she's also just not the type that would want to come on a podcast. But like, you know, movies aren't necessarily her thing. Like she doesn't just automatically want to watch a movie because it's a movie the same way that we do. And so like, not only is the podcast taking time away for like recording the podcast and doing the prep and everything, but like, you know, also it's like, that's a few hours a week of me watching a movie by myself that I could be spending with her. And she, you know, she's supportive and she knows that I love it. And, you know, we don't have the type of relationship where we can't do the things we each want to do, but yeah, it's like we have to have the support of our partners, and it's been awesome. Like, we're very, very lucky in that regard.
I have to fight to keep my spot on the pod because Angie would take my spot in a heartbeat, and I think Tyler and Ben would prefer it. And so I am selfishly fighting to be here. Very selfish for me to stay here.
Artwork, you're out of here. Once the artwork dries up, and it's like, all right, get Angie in here.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Like, oh, sorry. I just.
No, please go ahead.
When I think of the biggest compromise I had to make, it was actually like, sort of like as far as creative vision's concerned. And it's funny when I say what I'm about to say, because what I felt I had to compromise most on ended up being my favorite part about the show. I like not that I didn't understand it or wasn't on board, but the whole, like the movie club aspect of it was lost on me. Like I sort of looked at this as like, we were like three, in like maybe it was just fully ego or whatever. I just thought it was going to be just the three of us and we would be talking to like the ether or the crowd. Yeah. I had no, anticipation of like having guests on or just like having a guest on for every episode. Like I'll be honest, I wasn't fully on board at first, but I was like, well, whatever, like they want to do it, I don't really care that much, you know what I mean? Because like for me, my vision, like I said, was just like the three of us dictating the path of the podcast to the listeners. And in some ways, introducing guests has sort of informed choices we've made for the podcast, which at first I didn't love because I wanted it to be this like cute little idea that was born for just like the three of us. And it was our thing that we were sharing. But it was Matt, the first person that like it brought it up as a club open to the world. I was like, oh, wait. Yeah, of course. Like, why wouldn't this be open to everyone? Why wouldn't I want that? But it was like, it was this weird like mental block that I had. And it's like I said, it's become like my favorite thing about the podcast is having the guests on. So it's funny that it was my biggest compromise, but yeah, it's the thing I'm most proud of now.
That's all. Yeah. I mean, I feel the same, where it's just like, if we have an episode where a guest, it hasn't happened often at all, but like if a guest can't come on or something, it's like, do we just like push back until we can get somebody? It's like we've only done it like once since we started having guests every time. And it almost like it felt like riding a bike, like, oh, it's the three of us talking, but it was also just like, oh, we don't have like, there's not a Clubhouse today. Like there's no one else to talk. Like it's just kind of like, but I like that that's become kind of the norm. Like it's so fun to have, like, I think the three of us kind of know each other really well. We kind of have an idea maybe of what like the opinions will be. So it's great to have a fourth, sometimes fifth party come on and just like to be able to talk to them. But I think, you know, there's been a lot of compromises that are made, but I think it functions as well as it does because we all bring a lot to the podcast. You know, we joke about, you know, if Matt ever stops doing the artwork, he's out of here. But honestly, like we've had so many guests, like after we record, it's like, hey, who does that? You know, like Matt's, the stuff he does is amazing and other pods aren't doing this. So we're super lucky to have Matt. I'm going to talk about you like you're not here, but like the artwork that you do is awesome. I'm very excited to get back into the watch parties. Like Tyler's creating a fantastic website for the sneak peeks that we've gotten already. But even just like the bracket builder stuff is so much fun. It just brings like a new dynamic to the podcast. So I think between the three of us, we bring a lot of fun stuff to the pod. And we hope that comes across in the episodes. And that's just what we're trying to do, is just trying to like build this community. So let's see. All right. So this was a kind of a fun question. Who would you cast to play yourself in a 3 films pod version of Private Parts? If anyone's not familiar with that movie, it is basically the Howard Stern story. Stern story is a weird thing to say back to back. So yeah, who would you guys cast to play yourself in that movie?
So I don't
I would.
I had a whole lead up and I lost it.
You know how like I can't think of his name now. Jesus. Who's the guy that directed Iron Man? Jon Favreau.
Yes.
Yeah. Favreau directed Chef, and his ex and his current partner were Scarlett Johansson and I forget her name from Modern Family.
Sofia Vergara.
Sofia Vergara.
So yeah, I think those were like his two partners in that movie. And someone asked him about it. He's like, well, yeah, if I'm gonna direct the movie, like I'm gonna pretend that my character has super hot, partners. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So if I was going to do that to myself, I would cast Oscar Isaac to be me because he's a very handsome man with a beard, and I have a beard, so I think that's the qualification I have there. If I was going to make it maybe a little more age realistic, just because I like him so much. I like Evan Peters a lot. I think he's I don't know. I like him, and I would want him to play me. So those would be my bets.
I love it. You're a man after my own heart. Because what I was trying to say was that in the real world, like if in a realistic casting, I would probably pick Patton Oswalt. Not because I think I'm as funny as him, but because he has a whole bit about how he went to go buy size 38 pants at a John Varvatos shop, and that's the size that I wear. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm like the same body type as Patton Oswalt. So in all reality, like it'd be Patton Oswalt, and that'd be great. I fucking love Patton.
Yeah.
But since I get to choose in the same light as you were talking about, I'm going Thor. I'm going Chris Hemsworth.
Ooh.
Like,
I like it.
If I can pretend to be anyone else on this planet, it's probably gonna be Chris Hemsworth. So I think that's
great.
Me and Thor, we're synonymous. We're the same person as far as I'm concerned.
I would pick for those who have listened to the episodes that my wife is on, they'll understand that I would pick Diego Luna.
Yep.
As young Matt Weiler making his way in the world.
She's going to insist on that How to Train Your Dragon scene with Diego Luna taking his pants off at the drive-in. Like, no, it's very pertinent to the story of Three Films Pod. We have to recreate this scene. I will play myself.
We need a dashboard view.
I like that. Let's get that movie greenlit. Oscar Isaac, Chris Hemsworth, Diego Luna. Who says no?
Solid cast.
Yeah.
I certainly don't.
Let's see. Oh, this was a fun one too. Roses and Thorns from this year. What movie made you laugh and or cry the hardest?
Mine's the same answer for both.
Oh, let's hear it.
I'm going to go with Marriage Story.
I was just going to say, I'm going to cheat and not do the past year, but I'm going to say Marriage Story because we have watched that on the pod.
Yeah.
That was the very first round that we were doing, but yeah, that was going to be my answer as well. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as when our threesome like got together, that would be my answer. It'd be Marriage Story.
That's 100% the answer that I want to give. Mm-hmm. But I know there was another. We've discussed this. In fact, Anna from a Professional Friends podcast made fun of me for this a lot when she was on. Because I just can't, like, when you ask me a question like this, I can't remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can quote a number of different movies or songs or TV shows, or I have my memory is just weird. I don't know what the deal is, but like, I know there was a moment throughout this podcast that like had me choked up, but I just can't remember what it was. But in the interest of having a different answer than Marriage Story, I mean, I think Marriage Story was probably my favorite movie I watched in 2020. But I'm going to go Jojo Rabbit because, I mean, there was obviously some heart-wrenching stuff. It's really fucking funny. It's Taika Waititi. It's charming and weird and heartbreaking and heartwarming all at the same time. So I'll say Jojo Rabbit in the interest of having a different answer. But yeah, Marriage Story was, I mean, I don't know how much more we could keep saying about Marriage Story, but
I'll say if you want to hear more, go back and listen to our 2020 year in review. We talked at length about Marriage Story, about Jojo Rabbit, about Parasite. 2020 was a good year for us for movies, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. And then the last one, I think it's just directed right at you, Matt. One Why Maggie Gyllenhaal when Jake Gyllenhaal is better?
I don't like or understand this question.
I reject this question. Moving on.
If you really do this exercise, and I suppose I won't call this person out by name who asked this question, but you know who you are. If you really do the episode,
huh?
Where you headed?
I'm gonna go find MJ.
Good luck, kid. I'll give you about a 50-50 chance. You're pretty awkward, so.
We'll never know who it was.
Matt's argument is valid. Like, Maggie Gyllenhaal could replace Jake Gyllenhaal in almost everything.
This is not throwing any shade on Jake Gyllenhaal.
No, he's great.
And if you listen to the pod at all, we are Jake Gyllenhaal fans.
Of course.
We are very big Jake Gyllenhaal fans. We would put Jake Gyllenhaal over many actors in many movies.
Yeah.
But we'd also put Maggie over him.
I just don't know if there's a role that Maggie wouldn't do better.
Yeah.
Maggie as a Mysterio, come on. I want a solo movie of that.
100%. I want the Princess of Persia. Give me that movie. That's what I want. And I feel like there'll be plenty more Gyllenhaal talk in the upcoming season 2.
I think so.
With some of this
Word on the
reformatting
street.
we're doing. So
Word
stay
on
tuned.
the street.